Value-based content is dead. And if you don't understand what's replacing it, you're gonna be left in the dust in 2026. You see, I've been creating content and growing my business with it for over 3 years now. And what I've noticed is that there's a fundamental shift that's happened to the content space in the last 10 months that nobody really seems to talk about. Because when I started, I was like everybody else. I only created this value-based content, and don't get me wrong, it worked. It got me views, brand awareness, and even clients. But over the past year, everything shifted, and my content didn't perform as it used to. And that's because the old playbook that worked in 2023, 2024 is now the exact reason that channels and businesses are stagnating. So in this video, I'm going to explain exactly what's happening, why the old rules no longer apply, and what the new framework is that's replacing them. So let me paint a picture of what's really happening right now in the educational content space. For years, value meant one thing: handing over the information people needed to achieve their goals. Step-by-step guides, tutorials, the how-to videos that dominated every platform. And the logic was bulletproof. If you gave people actionable information they were looking for, they would think, if he gives away this much for free, his paid products must be incredible. But here's what changed, and this is crucial to understand. The market has matured, and the equation of free value equals great product has completely been replaced. Think about it. When someone has a problem today or needs specific information fast, where do they go first? They would probably go and ask ChatGPT, right? At least that's what I'm doing. And so nowadays, in most cases, the information coaches and creators give as free value is the same information you can get from AI in like 30 seconds. And that doesn't build trust, it destroys it. Because when people can get the same information you're providing in your videos elsewhere instantly and for free, why should your product be any better? Because here's what value really means in 2026. It's not about giving more or better information, it's about fundamentally changing the way people see and approach their problems. In other words, it has to shift the viewer's beliefs. See, anyone can Google or ask ChatGPT how to lose weight and get all the information necessary to then actually lose weight. And so what people really need from your content is to show them why their current approach is fundamentally wrong, why the fitness industry has been lying to them in some regards, or how to think about their body completely differently. Because that's the difference between informational value and belief shifting value. Informational content tells you what to do and then goes on to explain you how to do it. Now, value shifting content on the other side also tells you what to do, but then goes on to explain you why you should do it. For example, informational content would sound something like, here's how to implement these 5 marketing strategies. But belief shifting content frames it as, here's why most marketing feels desperate and how to fix it. Value nowadays has to make the impression that you don't just know the quick fixes, tutorials, or step-by-step guides, but you actually know the causes and the roots of the problems and how they fit into the bigger scheme of things. Okay, but let's zoom out for a second. Because here's the reality. There are so many moving parts to this, right? You need to identify the right beliefs to shift, how to craft compelling narratives, position you as the guide, and all that while maintaining authority and authenticity. And most creators know that they need to implement all of this into their content, but they simply feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start. And that's exactly why I recently started helping infopreneurs implement this new kind of value into their content and take care of all of their YouTube content on top of that. So if you still have questions on how to implement all of this by the end of this video, feel free to book a chat with the top link in the description. So how can you actually deliver the right value in your content then? In most cases, the what to do isn't why your value isn't valuable anymore, and it's not why people don't end up converting. The problem is how you package it, how you incorporate the what to do in your content. The old approach would be something like, here are 5 strategies to grow your business. Now with better packaging, the new approach would be something like, why everything you've been told about business growth is wrong. Now both videos might have the same exact information, but they have completely different packaging. The second one positions you as someone who sees the bigger picture and not someone who just has tactics. So there are 3 key points when packaging your value. So I touched on the first one a little bit already, but it's moving from what to do and how to do it to what to do and why to do it. Because as I just explained, the moment you focus on how, you're competing directly against ChatGPT. To put this into perspective, it's the difference between teaching someone how to fish versus teaching someone where to fish. Anyone can access the necessary information instantly, and it will be perfectly formatted with step-by-step instructions. But to know where to fish, that's completely different. That requires you to understand the lake, know the seasons, read the water patterns, recognize where the fish gather based on the temperature. So instead of saying here's how to fish, you say this is why you should fish here and not there. And the result is the same, because in both cases you're teaching the viewer how to fish more fish, right? But the packaging and the perceived value will be completely different. You're upgrading the entire mental framework of how they see the problem, how they perceive it. And as you now know, in this day and age, this is infinitely more valuable than just a tutorial. Focus on what plus why, not what plus how. That's the first key packaging point. Now the second one is that you need to stand behind bigger ideas. Specific information has kind of an expiry date. In this day and age, stuff is changing really fast. algorithms, SEO rules, marketing tactics. But the big ideas, they are in most cases timeless. Look at every big figure/creator who built a lasting business. James Clear didn't win by sharing some productivity tips. He won by owning the idea that small habits create massive changes over time. And so Atomic Habits came out in 2018, and it's still relevant to this day because it's built around this big idea. Meanwhile, creators who give specific tactics have to constantly rebuild their authority every time the landscape changes. They're like real estate agents who only know how to sell houses in a bull market. So for example, instead of giving tips for what to post for the 2026 Instagram algorithm, you could stand behind the idea that authenticity beats perfection every time. Or instead of giving 5 copywriting formulas, you can stand behind the psychology of trust. When you stand behind big ideas, you're not competing on the information, you're more competing on wisdom. And wisdom is one thing that AI can't really replace, at least not yet, because it comes from experience, perspective, and judgment. Package your value behind big ideas, not specific information. That's the second point of great packaging. And that brings us to the third and last key packaging point, moving from lectures to storytelling. Researchers at Stanford discovered something remarkable. When people hear information presented as facts, only 2 areas of their brain light up, the language and the logic processing centers. But when the same information is presented as a story, pretty much the entire brain activates. And one of the best examples I can share with you of how to combine educational content with storytelling is how Steve Jobs presented the iPhone in 2007.
And we are calling it iPhone.
You know, he could have worked on that stage and said, we've created a phone with a 3.5-inch touchscreen, 8 GB of storage and internet connectivity. Pure facts, pure lecture mode, but instead he told a story. He started by painting the picture of the problem.
What's wrong with their user interfaces? Well, the problem with them is really sort of in the bottom 40 there. It's this stuff right here. They all have these keyboards that are there whether you need them or not to be there. And they all have these control buttons that are fixed in plastic and are the same for every application. Well, every application wants a slightly different user interface, a slightly optimized set of buttons just for it.
He built tension, made people lean in and wondering where he was going. He didn't list specification, he didn't talk about megapixels or all the different technical elements. He told the story of convenience of 3 distinct needs coming together in one device. I really need to change my phone, like it's breaking everywhere. He was making people feel like they were witnessing history and not buying a piece of technology.
And each of these revolutionary user interfaces has made possible a revolutionary product. The Mac, the iPod, and now the iPhone.
So in your videos, you need to apply the same concept. Essentially what you want to do is to combine value with a storytelling script, because it doesn't just have the benefit of actually making your videos way more engaging. When you teach your storytelling, the viewers don't just understand it better intellectually, they also feel it emotionally. And emotion is what drives action. Teach your stories, not lectures. That's the third and last key point. We're living through the collapse of the information economy, and we'll enter what I believe will be the wisdom economy. And creators who understand this, they aren't panicking, they're evolving. They realize that in a world where information isn't really a problem anymore, the real value is helping people see their problems differently. Because only then are you not competing with AI anymore. So if this philosophy resonates with you and you want to build a YouTube channel based on belief shifts and not on information, there's a link below to book a chat directly with me. I'll show you exactly how to implement belief shifts, storytelling, and everything else we talked about in this video. And you know, from there we would see if it would suit you to have me take care of all of your long form content for you. So I'll talk to you soon. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.